Alright, everybody, if you like this podcast, make sure to support your boy by going to Amazon and maybe buying one of my poetry books. Just look up Fernando Correa Gonzalez and they will pop up immediately. If not, you can always just go to my blog, fencorrea.weebly.com/blog. That is FENCORREA.weebly.com/blog to look up all my independent journalism. And yeah, enjoy. Okay, esto sería. I think this is episode 40. No, this is episode 51. Episode 51 of the FENCast. Estamos hoy con Christian Lee Villanueva, aka Pixelate for work. In Mayagüez, Puerto Rico, it is. What time is it? It is after 4:30.
It's time for the FENcast.
It's time for the FENcast. Sure about that. So, first off, how are you, man? How you been?
I'm alright. I've been making sure to get some rest so that I can work well. I don't know. It's been an interesting year, and it's only February on a Wednesday. So, I don't know. I'm looking forward to the rest of the year.
How has the year been interesting?
I guess just a lot of initiative from the people I've been surrounded with, starting with, let's say, you and the FENcast, which you've already been at for a while, and I'm glad that it's still growing strong into 2019. Coordinating things like open mics, talking with other creatives, and just, hey, what are you up to? Oh, well, I'm working on this project. I have this one on the back burner, and I've seen just a lot of people really have their vitality just creatively just flourish throughout the start of this year, and I guess toward the end of 2018, I feel like a lot of people just like, oh, we're leaving all of this negativity behind, and we're being our best selves because that's all we can be.
Yeah, el artistic spirit que dejó after Maria is still going strong.
Yeah, like we're prepping for that 2020. We're gonna take that new decade by storm.
Yeah, man. So let's start with, I guess, the beginning. So, what got you into art in the first place?
I suppose it's another case of it's not what got me into it. It's that I never fell out of it. But I suppose a much more concrete answer was throughout the years I started focusing through the channels of, okay, what is it about me that is called upon from art? Okay, comics. Right, this is a language that works for me. What does that tell me about how I approach art? Okay, so I like to have this sort of structure and narrative. Okay, so that means I'm gonna lean more toward this and this and this and. I guess high school was when that kind of started cementing, and by the time I graduated and headed here, that's when I realized, yep, this is my medium. I want to be a visual storyteller, and this is the way that I can have like the unlimited budget of if I can draw it, it can be there.
Yeah, is that also why a lot of your comics tend to be reflective or biographical in some way?
Yeah, that's something that also kind of happened organically. I suppose instead of a diary, since keeping a journal felt too much like I'm keeping it on purpose, so to speak, that when I wanted to meditate upon something or document it or otherwise, that's the format that I could get across, and then reading it back. It's not just the words, I suppose. It's how did I draw this? Was my hand trembling a bit? Was did I have a very nervous energy? Did I just kind of flow with this? Was I drawing in cursive, let's say, or very high strung? So there's different layers when I look back on it. But yeah, that's an extension of that, and I've just been letting that seep into how I do things if it works for me. Like even in my class notes, that's how, like, if I can have fun with how I write this down through my language, then I can actually retain it better, and I guess that's also served as a mnemonic device.
Yeah. You work both regular drawing by hand and digital. Which one would you say is your preferred right now?
Well, it depends, because some comics that I've been working on. I'm just, since I'm uploading them online, digital to digital keeps it very native. Especially like, okay, how does this site host? What are the restraints on the images? Okay, then I can tailor a little better toward this sort of format. But on paper, I've been doing just a lot of brainstorming, and then the tactile aspect of it. There's a lot of feedback that I really like. So, that type of a drawing as I go and things from life feels much more comfortable. Plus, I guess it has this aspect of I'm doing this for me, and then from here I can decide if I scan it in or if I do it digitally, so it's a little crisp. So, but traditionally I love ink. I recently got into, okay, let me learn how to properly use a brush that I have to dip, not just a brush pen. So yes, I suppose that's it. I have a process for digital, which is what I'm doing now, and then I also have my little experiments on paper.
When ahorita estábamos hablando before we started recording, that you started getting into writing poetry. How did that come about?
Well, I've dabbled in it without that much commitment, but the pipeline would usually be, I'm thinking about something, and I'll come up with either some phrases or something kind of like a joke, kind of like a vignette, where I would have 2 sentences was the way that I did it. As a vignette, I would have kind of like a setup, drawing, punchline situation. But whenever I came up with these, I would translate them into a script for a comic later on instead. So then I tried to reverse engineer that of, okay, what if I take some of those and I put them into words? What does that afford me? And since you can't really perform a comic, I mean, maybe you can. Since I haven't figured out how to perform a comic at an open mic, I've tried to just cater to expressing things through the words themselves. And I suppose collecting those, I try to keep on my phone on the memo app, different ones for like, okay, these are gonna be scripts, these are gonna be poetry, these are gonna be things that I should probably get around to doing soon. So I've been keeping these snippets, and sometimes when I'm at the mic, since I figured I can't choose not to get up and perform, because then what if I never do it again because I get comfortable? So I'll sign up, and in the time that I have, I'm just, okay, I'm already gonna perform. I'm not even gonna worry about that. Now, how can I workshop something just to get something, even if it's rough, get it out there, and then by the end of the night, oh look, now I have a few saplings of poetry that I can nourish in one direction or another, and I performed something. So I've been keeping those, but since they're still in a very early stage, I'm trying to like get them a little more before I release them into the world.
They're still babies.
Yeah, or I'll just turn them into more comics and have that just be a fun fact of the process. We'll see what direction that takes.
Is that also how you got into? Because you told me that you did a little bit of stand-up.
Yeah.
Is that also how you got into stand-up?
Yeah. That's something that I've always liked, and I also just kind of kept a journal, right? And part of how it came about was one of my pocket sketchbooks, I would use the front of it to draw, and then the back would just be doodles that I would just send some people. And I was going through a pretty rough time, and I said, okay, I'm still going to use this from the back of it, but I'm going to use the side of the notebook to write. And I would write either anecdotes, observations, or just kind of have these musings. And yeah, I just said, you know what, I'm gonna look for a mic. I'm gonna see where this is happening, because this is a community that has always been near and dear to my heart, and I want to be actively part of it. And then I did just that. Before I moved away for a while, I saw, oh, there's a Vox Populi. A mic's a mic.
Yeah.
So, hey everyone, I'm gonna tell you some jokes. And then when I left, I just kind of did the same, like, oh, it doesn't matter if my nerves are racking up. I already signed up.
Yeah.
Let me just see when I should brace myself for this. And I just kept at it. I guess it's
Just going.
yeah, I do it for me, and then the rest just kind of flows if I trust myself with it.
Gotcha. In a lot of your work, we already mentioned that it tends to be biographical or reflective.
Yeah.
But in a lot of it, you also make references or reflect on the art scene in Puerto Rico. Why is that?
Reflect on the art scene in Puerto Rico. Do you have an example?
Yeah, the comic that you did.
Oh,
with the
yeah.
bands, with Lopez, I look before me and then see it.
Yeah, okay. So I love going to shows, and I love drawing that sort of thing. And I don't know, I guess it's just kind of giving back. I figured, well, I could come up with some fake band or something, but I remember that being an instance of, wow, this show was so good and it was such an experience from every direction. If I could just have like a time capsule of that, and through my own language, if I like to tell stories, and yeah, that just came about. I just like, I really like what we have going on here, so giving back to it is also part of the fun. I suppose that it doesn't come from a let's world build, but rather look at the world that we've already built.
Yeah.
So even if in a simple drawing, if it's like in the background, like, these are gonna be posters. I could leave them blank, or there's actually a Maono show coming up. Let me just put that in the background as a little nod of, hey guys, if you're reading this now, also coming up, check this out. But yeah, I guess from there I've also learned, okay, these are the things the idiosyncrasies that I really like. So then when I make something that is, okay, this is gonna be fiction from scratch, I already know, how does this feel? Let me make it as personal as I can, even if it's some made-up world with made-up people. Because then it'll still be universal in the sense that we all have this very personal experience of, I went to a place and this is how I felt in a show. If it was really loud, if it was really new, if it was really fun, if I was really nervous. And I think that underlying human emotion is what's really important to get across, and something that I've really tried to appreciate, just trying to be present at wherever it is that I'm at. I hope that answers. I feel that I took a serious detour into what I love about art is.
I was gonna ask, usually your comics have characters that would seem like real people that you would know. Would you explore other comic genres like science fiction, fantasy, what have you?
Yeah, I'm tapping into that. I've been writing. Okay, so I decided I want to do a project that is ongoing for me, something kind of sitcom-y, where I'll always sit down, write an episode. This is the script, and see where it grows, right? So that I can have something going on without it being, I have to write the entire novel start to finish before I even lift the pencil to draw it, right? So then, okay, what do I want to represent with these characters? What are their pros and cons? How do they contrast? What's the flavor to them? And so I started writing it and drawing it, and then it occurred to me, oh, well, I've made these illustrations on my own of how I picture some science fiction or something leaning towards cyberpunk, or I guess given my music, some type of post-punk, let's say, right? Just Death Hawks and Joy Division shirts and things. And yeah, I've been playing with that, but like, okay, what's interesting about it to me? Because I feel that oftentimes with sci-fi, or I mean, sci-fi gets thrown around very loosely, but something with let's say cyberpunk, for instance, I feel that it's often the genre is supposed to be the personality, and that kind of breaks the immersion for me, because it's borderline looking at the camera. Look, my personality is having technology. No, that's, if you live in that world, you're used to it. How would you live in that world, you know. How depending on where you're from, right? Who's gonna have the words can't hurt me, this cybernetic arm is Gucci, versus, oh, I have a mechanical arm from a government subsidy because this I got it for free, but it's because it lets me do construction easier. Oh, you can tell this person has a family because they only got one of the arms so they can use their other arm to hold their child, you know. Questions like that about how does this world operate, where you can see it's sci-fi, let's say, or adjacent, but that's not the whole purpose of it, right? It's still people being people, just in a different context. That is, you know, I guess the more things change, the more they stay the same. And I suppose that's where I take a loop to things in my writing.
So right now that's perhaps a future project.
Currently I'm writing and drawing. I'm updating every so often on check out my comic Please Stand By on Tapastic or tapas.io.
I was gonna ask, is there any other medium that you would want to explore?
In what sense?
Artistic medium.
Let's see. Well, if it's drawing, I feel that would still be too narrow of a scope, because, like, okay, yeah, but I draw all the time. What do I not do? Let's see. Film is interesting, but I'm not really sure how I would tackle that if I were to do it. I learned from it, certainly. Sculpture is also interesting. You know, a bit pricey when it comes to raw. I mean, I guess that's not an excuse. You can make a sculpture out of most things.
I mean, kids use Play-Doh when they begin. So. Yeah,
it's true. Just today I was working with clay in the workshop, and I'm just, oh right, this is what it's like. Oh right, now that I kind of know how to handle it a little better, it's not as frustrating. So I suppose things in 3D or installations, that type of situation. But I've really learned, I guess, recently, having experimented with some 3D mediums, that I can't complain about not being an expert at it from the get-go, right? Same reason it would be absurd to get upset if you don't know math from day one, because, like, oh, you don't even know the language. You can't be angry at yourself for not being able to be very articulate in it. So I guess I'm gonna see where those things go.
Ever thought about music?
Yes, I have. I practiced so in fourth grade I spent a semester abroad, and I dabbled in the drums, right? And I'm okay, that I may not have gotten to a very advanced level with it, but that's something that maybe that's why I'm a little fond of that. What if I just got something for some percussion and started making a little music for the fun of it? But I feel that getting too crazy like that without sitting down and learning some of how it works, which is different from just playing. But yeah, I'm interested in music. I guess I'm just concerned of, okay, what do I have to put in before leaping into a project so that it doesn't become the situation of, I want to make music, I don't know how. I'm gonna sit, you guys jam, and I'll high five myself. But I guess at the very least, I don't know, coming up with some melodies or some writing and easing into it. Or I guess in the digital age, you can just download software and go to town on that.
At least the process is a whole lot easier. Than what it used to be. Oh,
100%. You can make from the comfort of your room music on par, if not better, than, say, a whole studio in the 60s or 70s.
We haven't talked about your inspiration or influences. Well, we did mention a few. You did mention a few. But if you were to say, I don't know, like top 5 people you look up to or whatever.
Okay.
Something like that.
Let's see. There's Sean Gordon Murphy. She's a comic artist, did Punk Rock Jesus. That's one of those. Oh, you can do this with the medium? What? This is that oomph that I've been looking in how ink and comics and all that is handled. Nice. Yoji Shinkawa does a lot of ink illustrations, and been really interesting watching his art grow all the way from Metal Gear Solid 1 all the way to, I suppose, Phantom Pain or Death Stranding. So that type of I guess articulating things visually. Maya Takamura, since I was in high school, just like that use of color and lines was interesting to me. Recently got on art. You know that feeling when you hunt down a book and you finally you get to appreciate it because it's in your hands. Kenneth Rocafort, who I remember seeing his paneling and his use of lines and being like, "You can do this." Like suddenly, it was a moment where it really dawned on me through his art that the panel isn't supposed to just contain the art. The panel can also be part of the art. And Kim Jung-ji, who is his famous for he's a cartoonist, right? And that's how he describes himself. But he does these ink drawings freehand, and it just looks like, okay, he's a master, but it's because he has so much fun with it. So that really informed how I view composition, rendering, especially with ink, and Yoshitaka Amano, who did a lot of illustrations for Final Fantasy and other works, but this really soft but really striking palette, that Art Nouveau aspect to it. I'm just, you can actually handle color like that? You can do this? So I suppose it's been a lot of artists where it's, that's something from art that resonates with me. I have now learned about how I view it and how I work in relation to this through these different lenses.
How would you describe your creative process?
It depends if I'm kickstarting something new, or if I'm trying to, if I already have a vision for it. So, for example, if it's a script, let's say it's Gracia por Venir. I remember just being in class and I signed up for a class that actually didn't have to because I thought it was a requirement, right? Okay, cool. And I'm just there in class writing because I know how it's gonna start and end. But then if I write it down, it'll be very tangible. I can start very precisely visualizing how this is gonna go. So in a case like that, it's okay. Let me write this down, and then when I'm done, I'll go over it, I'll polish it, and I'll see how things are supposed to connect. If not, the comic I'm working now on, Please Stand By. Since it's more sitcom-y, more episodic. I'm thinking, okay, what's a funny scenario? Not necessarily a funny scenario, but what's a scenario that I can put these characters into? Okay, how does that grow? How does that tie into the world around them? What challenge is the character gonna have, and how are they gonna act in response to that? And then from there, once I have these very key things of where are they going, what are they gonna do, then I can once I have, I guess, the bones of it, then I can start putting the meat on of how are they gonna interact, what's this back and forth. Having key questions so that you're not just in the dark trying to just toss things to see what sticks. And I guess in a case like that, also have notes on what's everyone here like, so that you already as a reader understand that's totally something this character would do. That's definitely something, and have consistency with these things. So usually I'll have these tabs, just research and reference sheets for what I'm making, and then on the other side I'll have the actual script, and I won't delete it all when I go over it. I'll just this is the draft. Okay, now let's make the clean version. Okay, are there any very specific shots that I want? So that then I remember, okay, I'm going to write down, it's going to be from this angle, over this shoulder, this is going to happen. I need to color this in a very specific form so that I can lead the eye across it. And sometimes it's more, I guess, as it comes along, because it has a different pace to it. Like, I guess kind of the parallel would be like when you're watching a movie and someone knows when they can kind of lean over and ask you something, versus moments where everyone is dead silent because it's a very climactic moment. So it's that type of tension. And I guess if I feel it as I'm going along with it, since I'm doing it for me, then it'll transmit to someone else. And not on paper when I'm just experimenting. Right now I've noticed that I'm doing these like erotic drawings and I'm experimenting with some watercolor.
Nice.
So now it's been, okay, this is a very organic to organic translation between the subject matter and the medium, right? Especially with something like watercolor, where it's a medium that does not like to be dominated, especially since it's so transparent. And then with that, it's more, I'm gonna just keep on going and see where this goes, whether that's a stream of consciousness or that's I've already made this amount of lines, now I know what this drawing is about. So I suppose it depends what you sit down to do, and then that can take different forms.
It's a case by case thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned watercolors.
Yeah.
How do you delve into painting, or have you stopped?
I did some painting. It was mainly for class. Materials are expensive if you want to be a painter.
That's what I've been told.
Yeah. Well, watercolors. I wouldn't say that I'm very proficient at, but I've come to kind of. I guess it's a medium that you have to really negotiate with. So you'll certainly learn patience from it. I've been using it specifically to just add a little, like just splashes of color, because markers are very expensive, and just if you want to have one color, you need like 12 markers because there's so many shades of it. But I'm hoping that leads from just a little splash and color notes here and here to I've actually accrued my first 20 hours or my first 100 hours at it, and then I can hopefully use it a little more quote unquote seriously. But as far as painting, the closest I'm doing right now is coloring for comics, because when you're writing a story, you know that when something, this is a very colorful story versus this is a very noir story, you know. And I've tackled it from the point of view of, okay, I'm gonna color. What does that mean? And especially, what does that mean for the story? So I've been researching some color theory, and specifically how to apply it to comics, because if you're gonna use colors there, you're not gonna turn every panel into this hyper-realistic painting. I mean, you could do that, but for me, it's been, how do I properly use color? How do I get the mood across? How do I tell you, no, the foreground is maybe, let's say everyone's blue, so that you look past them. You're supposed to look in this direction. So having that sense of aim has really let me use color way better than I would have years ago. Because now, I have direction. It's not just, let's hope all of these colors stick before I give myself a migraine.
I guess this question would be somewhat repetitive, but fuck it. So, how would you say your work reflects you and your environment?
I suppose it says. I suppose in my for my case, it would be. It says more about me looking at things through my own lens. So when I draw something, it's of course gonna carry I suppose if I'm really gloomy and introspective, it'll be more like, okay, you were in this place and this was happening, but then this is how you felt about it. So I guess I just embrace the fact that, look, whatever you make, by virtue of you um, intervening with it is gonna be subjective. So let's be very forthcoming about that subjectivity. And uh, I guess an example would be I went through this period where I was just I think it was my third year. I didn't really have any friends around to spend time with, so I would just spend my time in the cafeteria or just a cafe, just drawing people. And a friend was looking through them and said, "Oh, this girl that you drew on this table looks really lonely." And I said, "Oh, well, she was actually surrounded by a bunch of her friends eating." "Oh, well, then it's even more impressive that you captured that." And then I thought, oh, I guess that says really more about me and what I'm projecting onto it.
Yeah.
So I suppose paper is a really earnest way of saying, look, the world can be just a blank canvas for you to project the mind. And this is a way of communicating that, whether purposely or not. So I guess it's always thought, hey, take it with a grain of salt. This is through a very specific lens at a very specific time of a very specific situation. So that's something that in art I try to be very wary of whether it's some made up character or my account. This is all whatever's happening is only representative of whoever's telling it or whoever or whatever's going on at that time, so it's not supposed to be a very general or broad representation. And I think I remember one comic that I tried to explore that with, which was this feeling of, oh, I'm feeling really under. And that it's not always the sense of, oh, I'm so gloomy, darkness falls across the land. Sometimes it does feel that way, and it sucks, man. But other times it can be something as simple as just going about your business. Oh, I'm so excited! This movie I've been waiting weeks to watch just came out, and then the other part of the back of your brain just goes, so, oh, right, so, and then you just kind of melt back into yourself and you have to logic your way into having a good time. So yeah, just case by case. I suppose they're all just snapshots, just vignettes of a very particular, maybe you've been in these shoes, maybe you haven't. And
I was gonna ask, what would you say, based on experience and what have you, the state of the arts, especially comics in Puerto Rico?
I'm not entirely sure, because I know that I exist in Puerto Rico and I make comics here, but I'm not as, I guess, in the loop with a lot of these. But from what I have seen, there's very different directions I've noticed. I've seen some biographical comics, some more on the documentative side, that are really earnest, and I suppose you can expect to see plenty of that in places like Tintero coming up, right? But then I'm all for that, or things that deal with, hey, what if we play with local folklore? But I do get worried when it becomes a pastiche of everything that we expect comics to be, in the sense of, okay, if you're going the superhero route, please be careful with it, because that's like a very heavy-handed approach at a market that already exists, and then the voices in the medium start getting less and less and less personal. And whenever anyone represents who we are in comics, I guess there's the issue of, to an outsider, you might be representing what the culture is and what the art scene is for this medium. And that's not something that I want to see reduced to an exclamation of, ha ha ha, I sure do love arroz habichuela, and then never addresses like the nuances of being from a certain culture. But there's, I don't know, I want to say a microcosm, but that makes it sound like it's much smaller than it is. We just have a lot of different voices here that whenever you do see 5 people's work, you'll find 10 others the next day that are doing things that you didn't quite think of. For example, we have tremendous cartoonists in Puerto Rico with very, like, viscerally distinct voices between them. And I don't know, I would like to contribute to, hey, let's be a little louder or just come together as a community, because I know I've certainly felt like I do my own thing, and then the art scene and the comics in Puerto Rico exist outside of my own sphere. So I'm hoping that moving forward, we can all just kind of take a step closer to whatever it is that drives us, and to have a bigger sense of community, because it feels that sometimes it's just these clandestine events that'll happen once, twice a year, and then poof. And that's not very sustainable economically or artistically. So,
Would you say that is what the scene needs then in order to move forward?
I suppose so. I know that, like, it's underground, it's really punk, man, but no, I guess if we organized, not in the sense of let's get really uptight with everything we do, but in actually giving each other a hand, we could get really far. And I don't know, I guess there's something kind of heartbreaking about looking through someone's art and just like, oh, this is fantastic, and this is either something I was looking for or something that I didn't know I needed to see. Why is this just hiding away in a shelf? Why do you feel so defeated about this? And at the same time, it's, wait a minute, I've also been there. Okay, so then I don't really have an excuse for this. Hey, everyone, hear me out. Let's do this. I suppose I have high hopes moving forward into this year and the next. I think that, we're like the people that I've seen active are really taking, like, it may be the 1,000-mile journey, but they are taking steps. And small as they may seem, whenever you take a glance back, there's this gargantuan chasm of, wow, look how far we've actually come. Let's also not take ourselves for granted, but let's also keep walking towards the mountain.
Especially in the span of like 2 years, the boom has been.
Oh yeah.
Or at least se ve que ha sido una cosa.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, even you would think like, let's say like Maria, like, oh, how will I put a dent on things? And as soon as we all had internet and we all had power, we were all sharing things like, oh yeah, no, we just lost all that time. We have all of this pent up like creativity that we want to just leak into the world, as well as things that were used that used the incident as a catalyst, I suppose. I mean, right across from where we're at in Musa, they have a whole exhibition where all of this wood was saved after that incident. So I'm glad that we've really kept a steady pace.
What would you say are the pros and cons of being an indie artist?
Pros and cons,
based on your own experience.
The pros and cons tend to go hand in hand, because you do have this space of, great, all that I do comes from me, but then that also comes with, who am I? What do I do? Do I just try to leap out of everything I know, or take steps and try not to stumble in the dark as I find out what it is that I want to make? Because whenever I look back at, what were the last 1, 2, 3 years like? I'm just, wow, I'm in such a completely different place, whether it be technically or how I choose to interpret things, or my whole process. Because like, for example, going from black and white to, I want to play with color and textures. The fact that if you don't answer to anyone and you answer to yourself, you have to make sure that you have a pretty good boss who's organized, disciplined, and will I suppose work with you, because then the counter to that would be, are you going to hold yourself hostage whenever you have to make work? And and then become your own slave and tyrant.
Yeah.
But also, I suppose a lot of it has to do with how you approach it. You know, now right, I gotta go. I have to do this versus hey, I gotta go. I get to do this.
Yeah.
So the pros and cons is hey, you get to do whatever you want, but you get to do whatever you want, and you need to know how to handle that.
Yeah. A lot of responsibility.
Yeah, and it's a shot in the dark, but it's one of those things that it's if you really want it, you know that you do, and you never regret betting the farm on it because it's always going to be something for you, and it's better to know how that works out than just have the dime a dozen ideas piling up and then wishing that you maybe could have almost perhaps someday have made something.
Yeah. That's part of what happens to me. A ton of ideas, but sometimes they pile up and hard to execute them because you don't know where to start.
Yeah, and you, without noticing, you start getting kind of lethargic on your own pace, and then suddenly, bam, you get that jolt where you're like, wait, I have to do all these things. Okay, I have all this vitality. Let me not forget what this feels like so that even on the slow days, you can just, even if it's on automatic, sip at something, listen to something, and put in the hours. That is the biggest open secret of anything you ever do. It's just putting in the time.
So far, what has been your best or worst experience?
Best or worst experience?
Or both?
Well, let's see. There was I suppose getting published was interesting because I had spoken with Microcosm, right? This publisher in Portland who specializes in zines, and even the way that they had categorized them, I came across them because I got a book for my research, right? And I'm just, they do this, and I can tell that there's heart in this because even if you go when you go into their zines, they have categories like mental health, scene history, right? And like these music books that are really specialized. And I said, hey, I made this comic about some as a Puerto Rico, no biggie. How would you feel? And then I just got like, we'd love to have this. And end of the day, like just seeing it on their site and just thinking, wow, this happened because I felt something so profound out of an experience like a show. That I felt I'm gonna make this out of a labor of love, right? And just being myself, just giving into that and being genuine, led to something really good. And that was such a big lesson. Like, okay, that's clearly what I have to do. I already know it because what we end up doing is stopping ourselves from doing that. And so here's an anecdote. We were setting up the mural in Figueroa Chapel, and we had been working in Ponce with Antonio Martorell, just all of these giant strips of not carpet. It's a very specific fieltro, I think. And we went through all of this work, right? Stamping it, painting it, varnishing it, right? We're wearing gas masks half the time. And we're setting it up, right? It was a few of us students helping out Antonio Martorell in Taller Libertad, which shout out to them for doing so much and for letting us be part of that endeavor. And we're setting it up, right? They're already drilling the mural onto the walls, right? All of these rolls that we have. And some staff walks in and says, hey, you're going to have to not only stop, but you have to rip it down, pack it up, and take everything out because you just uncovered some asbestos from the 70s. And oof, the tension there went through the roof. And everyone was crushed and just furious, but also just really saddened because, well, it is what it is, unfortunately. So there's not much of a choice, whether bureaucracy or for the well-being of whoever else comes into this place. But No, sometime forward they actually did patch that up and they actually did install it just well, and it's sitting right there and it looks spectacular. But
Oh,
that
yeah.
was,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
but that was a big headache.
Oh my god. So many hours just crushed in 1 second.
Yeah, but I suppose that was also an
A
an
lesson.
yeah, lesson of, okay, this is what we have to do. Okay, we'll freak out about it on our own time. If we want to salvage this, we need to move now.
Yeah, yeah. Fuck. When was this? Like 2 years ago?
This was, yeah, I want to say 2017, maybe April.
Yeah. Crazy, man.
Yeah.
How was your experience outside? In Pitt and New York?
How wasn't it? Really interesting. First semester over there, since I was staying at the university as a student, I was in the dorm studying and working. It had its own. Oh, right, I'm just a student here, who's also in an internship, right? Which I very fortunately got to be in this particular space. But something about being there abroad and something as simple as a change of setting, right? Still just like being in the dorms at a university studying, it gave me the sense of, wow, we really. It's important to look at other places, other cultures, and all, but it's important not to just mystify them because it's a different place. Because end of the day, it's just people living their day to day, just being people, studying, working. They just happen to do it in a different place with very different weather.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I suppose since I was the only student who wasn't an English major, contrary to popular belief, I thought, well, okay, let's see what they put me up to. Okay, I guess this is busy work, right? And I did some illustrations, right, for like posters for events that they had coming up, or hey, we have the care team. Can you do a logo? Oh, or here's an idea. How does this communicate to you guys? I guess I just took myself for granted. So then, and after people just bursting into my cubicle of, oh, check out what Christian's doing for the event. Oh, what? I had got the sense of, wow, oh, I've actually been contributing a lot. I just took my own work for granted, when clearly like these people understood, like, oh, he can do all of this and that's gonna help us out. So then when I went the second semester that I was just there to work, I don't know, that's when I really, when I got back, I was already in that sense of, I'm part of this team, and it's a very fortunate position to be in. I get to do what I love, and I get creatively challenged on the day to day. But that also means that I have a responsibility. So how I assess things is, okay, you need a logo. Okay, here's the ideas we're trying to get across. How does this work? Oh, actually, this doesn't work because it has this element, or the bridges here are very specific. Okay, so we're in the research portion. Okay, don't worry, we'll scrap this. If it doesn't work, we're not gonna force it. Okay, and then how does this work? So working with a team like that, and going from the lens of whatever I do represents this entire institution. And just working the day to day and something like that, and then after that, going to the city was really interesting, right? People everyone just being so different, and no matter where you go, there's always something going on, right? Like, oh, there's this punk bar with great lunch specials. That, oh, this bar, okay. Before I had left, a friend had told me of this band, right? Oh, check out Machine Girl. Cool. Okay, fast forward. I get here, like, what? This band just moved here when I arrived, and they're playing, and we're just kind of chilling out, hyperventilating. Don't forget, don't be weird about this. You're in public. And just waltzing into something like First Friday, because I went to a comics salon in this cafe, and then I met an artist from Mexico, told me to check out this portfolio opening, and before I know it, I'm already in this strip where there happens to be like the entire strip has all of these. It's like a neighborhood. All these buildings with residencies and workshops have gallery openings, and they have all of these projects, right? So now I'm just taking all of this in and engaging with it, and met someone who told me about Yo-Yo Club, and then I went to that, and like, oh, I didn't know this little place existed. That getting involved in the stand-up community, and being able to see it live, like, oh, I get to see people just trying material out and in person and having fun with it, and their idiosyncrasies. And it was, I suppose the coolest part was at some point realizing, oh, I am so used to this city, in the sense of I have become part of it. I now know at what time this bus comes, the intervals, where do I hop off from one place to the other, and really just becoming part of this giant organism that is this city. And I suppose I brought some of that with me, of, hey, we don't have mics, that's no good, we're gonna make that happen.
Yeah. Would you consider going back?
I would. I certainly enjoyed it. I don't want to force anything in any direction, but I'm certainly open to it. But right now, since at least for the foreseeable future of this semester, and let's see how much after that, I'll be here. I'm trying to focus on being present. So, okay, I'm present here. How can we make this symbiotic, so that, I get something from being here, and I can give something back to others, because then that's just gonna ripple outward. And not really sure where I'm going with 100% certainty. I suppose no one is, right? We could have a post-apocalyptic scenario tomorrow. I just hope it's like cool post-apocalyptic, But right now I'm going forward, and I think that's as much as I can say with certainty, but it also gives me an excitement moving forward, because as long as I'm here, I'm trying to give back and make that a habit, and break the old ones, and really nourish that part, so that the sense of community doesn't just atrophy and die like some vestigial part of it.
What would you say is your goal with your work?
My goal with my work, being genuine, having fun with it, just exploring, I feel is a big part of it. So enjoying it and saying, hey, here's something, world, check it out. How what do you take away from it? There's no wrong answers, but making it so that I just want to do the best that I can. Be able to put it out, and ideally live off of it. Like, if I could just eat and have a roof, and then just be able to make the work that I want to make. That's, I guess, the umbrella term, but that's, I suppose, something that's always a bit of a work in progress. So I guess, some people explore their bodies. I'm here exploring my body of work, of where it leads. I just want to make comics, man. Right now, that's what I want. I want to make comics. I want to draw, and I want to also get involved with things like shows and stuff. Like, even if I don't play, like, hey, visually, here's what I can bring to the table. So engagement and being genuine, that's a big part of it. And not looking down from, like, here I am bequeathing onto you the fine arts, but rather, hey, we're all on the same ground. Let's make this an actual conversation. Here's what I'm putting out. What are you making? And I don't know. I had a talk with someone. I went to this expo it was these artists that kind of, I guess it was this store that the front of it is like arts and crafts, right? And then the back of it is an antique store. But then the basement, they rented out to have their expo. It was two photographers and two visual art, I guess illustrators.
Yeah.
And I spoke with someone who had this furry erotica painting, right? And it said nothing special. And I asked them, where does that come from? Oh, it's this expression. I think it's part of a proverb, right? Don't quote me on his misquote of it. That something about trying to like achieve this level of, how do I get from here to there? Once you actually get there, it's nothing special. And I can understand that, but at the same time, I feel that I'm also at a place that the more I learn, the more fascinated I am by what other people do, regardless of where they're at. So if someone, I made this doodle, and I'll be like, just this doodle? Well, I learned enough to tell you how great you're doing in a way that might maybe point out some things that you maybe hadn't noticed that you were already very good at. And I've had this conversation. You can see people's eyes light up when you're just, this made me feel this way. Even if it's something that might come off as obvious. Hey, you're great at these expressions. I noticed that you take really good care of how you use color in these things and that you're really observant with this. Or, hey, there's this energy. And even if it's things that seem obvious, just having that conversation and not forgetting what it was like to be excited about things.
Yeah.
You know, it really multiplies.
I was gonna ask, is there some person you would like to collaborate in the future? It could be an artist, a musician, an athlete, whoever.
Let's see. Well, I'd like to collaborate first and foremost with myself. I think that's important not to lose sight of.
Of course.
And this writer from my West, Fen. You know, you should have him on here sometime. Let's see. There's a few local artists that I was also in the talks about who both write and draw, and I'm just no. This is no longer a what if. We're gonna sit down and do some work. There's Gabriela Maraver at Gerfel. There's Desira Soltero at Desden Dolls, and Paula Negron at Puali. Just, I suppose, cartoonists, but that also sells them short, because that's just a very narrow view of like, these are people who are really creative and doing all these nice things. And let's see. Okay, on the spot. Honestly, okay. So besides the obvious, okay, we're two visual artists. What do we do? I like to collaborate with musicians, and it doesn't have to be too specific, but for example, Grim Addiction, Jauría, Topo Negro, right? Local bands that I'm just, wow, you guys have given me such great times at these shows. It'd be cool to, maybe you need a poster or a T-shirt or something, Yeah. I mean, just sometimes reading the lineups and like how the names of the bands juxtapose. I'm just, you guys, I'm getting such a clear image of this. But I guess that's on me sitting down with it. I've been doing some doodles, so hopefully by the time this comes out, I can surprise them with it. Campo Formio, of course, that's a given. Don Ciego, etc. Honestly, look, if you're a band and you're out there, I'm probably coming for you. Maybe I don't have specifics right now. I suppose whoever's open to it, because the thing about a lot of them is that they already have such great creative forces inside them that like they already have, like, they know where they're headed with the whole package. Like, for example, Don Ciego, Deco's already, designs all the stuff himself. So, okay, you already have a complete vision of this.
Yeah.
And my friend Geraldo Mercado, who's he likes writing screenplays and short stories, and is now working into something that's become kind of a novella, right? Like, I'm like, oh, this is some nice horror. Okay, I see. When are we sitting down with this? But I suppose that it's not much of a hit list so much as it is, mira, el batalla está abierto.
Yeah.
If any of us have like the time to sit down with us at any moment, or if we just throw little things at each other, maybe it'll go from there. Because coordination, oh my God, is
yeah, it's always
yeah.
It can always be the problem, but if you get it done,
Yeah,
you get it
but
done.
I feel that's part of like the importance of having spaces over here. Like, hey, let's have an artist meetup. That way we can like whatever else happens this day, we're gonna have an hour or three to sit down and actually have this be a dialogue
Yeah.
and get those hours in. But I don't know. In the meantime, I think I'm trying to put some time in my own projects. But short answer, haha, yes, collabs sound good in theory. Let's see how those actually work out.
So what's next? You mentioned you have Please Stand By.
Yes.
What else do you have?
Let's see. Writing some poetry. I'm keeping that a little on the DL. I'm trying to workshop it at Mike's so that I can actually organize it. I have considered the poemario route. I saw some examples that Desiree Soltero at Destin Dolls was making. So experimenting with print is also interesting and time consuming. And oh my God, you ever print something that uses a lot of toner and the paper comes out wet? Because that's a bad time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I suppose that and working on illustrations for the annual expo here in the university.
Nice.
So just lots of drawing in all those directions and vignettes, and I suppose getting back onto like making illustrations. Like, okay, not everything has to be a giant narrative. A drawing can just be a drawing.
Yeah. Where can people find you?
They can find me at Pixelate for Work in Facebook, Patreon, tapas.io. I have a coffee page, as in KO dash FI. If you see my single page like comic strips, you'll find them in the description. At Twitter, same handle, and on Instagram, of course.
Have you ever considered doing a podcast yourself?
I have, but I'm thinking, what would it be about? Because I want to have like something, I guess, that makes it particularly fun for me. Like it would probably involve doodling, but then okay, we would need an entire setup with a camera, and then that would also mean that maybe people would miss out on most of the fun if they can't watch it. And then also, does that mean that we would get distracted because we're going to be drawing and not just talking? And then that tangent spirals out of control.
Yeah. It would be interesting podcasting.
It would.
Probably something different into the medium.
Hey, welcome to the Doodlecast. Let's see how long it takes anyone to spill a bottle of ink, because God forbid we use something more convenient. And now the weather.
I mean, el que mencionamos ahorita también estaría hilarious. At least hilarious.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Talk to me about you. What has this experience been like? You have someone come through here, semi-ready in some cases. I mean, I don't know what the level of readiness is. I'm hoping everyone else had as much fun as I have. But what's it like having different people come through here? Is there anything that you've noticed that like, oh, all these people have these things that no matter how different they are, kind of intertwines them as people, or things that you've learned? How's this process been for you?
So far, eye-opening, but I guess the thing that intertwines and connects all of them is the passion and the pros and cons, as you mentioned earlier. Yeah. It is cool that you get to do whatever the fuck you want, but kind of hard that you also have to get your butt off and actually do the work.
Yeah.
So you really gotta be passionate and organized.
Yep.
Interviewing now 51 people, counting yourself.
Nice.
But I guess that's the similarity that connects all of them. And it's been really nice. Y las entrevistas que hago con her campus,
Yeah.
they also like connect to this whole thing. And hopefully I'll also interview all those people at some point in my life.
Nice. Okay, see, you've had such a part in just not only amassing but giving a home and a proper archive to all of this lore of what and who is going on around here. And I don't know, I guess that's something that I was thinking in relation to whenever, where can you find cool artists and people? Oh, well, check out the FENcast or those articles. And I guess it gives me great relief to see that that's happening, because oftentimes when I think of something like all the DIY publications we make, these aren't really archived. And while that ephemeral nature of it is part of the fun, that means when this is all ruins, like what's gonna be left? Like, oh, there were artists here? Oh boy, I wish I knew what that was like.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a series of time capsules.
Yeah. Hopefully this thing will grow and we'll have also video for it. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, and then you can watch me doodle and knock shit over. Are we allowed to curse?
You can curse.
It's too late. We're gonna get demonetized.
That's pero yeah, man. That's part of the thing too, part of the
yeah. I will bet you the moment I walk out, I'll be like, that's what I was working on, right?
Pero yeah, part of the podcast también es documentar todo lo que está pasando as best as possible. Hopefully it'll go well. What else? Anything else? You cool, you Gucci?
I am Daijobu.
And that's a good way to finish the podcast.